Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Ordinary Council Meeting 4559 of Huntersville Council. Can I please ask you all to be upstanding? Council likes to acknowledge the traditional custodians, land and waters of Hunters Hill and pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. I'll now hand over to the Deputy Mayor to do the prayer.
Mr. Mayor, we thank you, Lord, for the honour of being called by our fellow citizens to this office of honour and trust. Give us grace, diligently and honourably, free from private interest or prejudice, to discharge the duties entrusted to us to the common good and as in your sight, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. The proceedings of all council meetings in open session, including all debate and addresses by the public, are recorded and webcast live on council's website for the purpose of facilitating community access. Webcast archives are stored and available to the public on council's website. The recordings may be disclosed under the provisions of the Government Information Public Access Act of 2009, the GIPA Act. Members of the public attending council meetings may have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded, publicly broadcast and archived, or as an observer or other interested party, members of the public consent to the use of their image, voice and personal information. Councillors, do we have any? We have no apologies. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Confirmations of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes of the ordinary council meeting 22 June 2026. Moved. Questions? Yep, I'll just move it first. Move Councillor Denise Sleeman, seconded. Councillor Bagara. A question, Councillor Lane.
Thank you. Through you to the General Manager. Item 7.1 was lost on the understanding that the sale of land was coming back at this meeting. Could you confirm when that's coming back?
September.
It's now September, is it? Can I ask what's changed?
I had some illness in the organisation. We haven't been able to get through the work.
Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions? Sorry, Councillor Preston.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just my name's misspelled again at item 8.1 from the last meeting.
Sure, that can be corrected. Councillor Williams.
Following on from Councillor Lane's question, I was just wondering when the broader remnant land report is going to be available at council.
That would be September, I assume.
September. That's exactly the same.
So it is the same policy. It's the same document.
Is it? I thought we were requiring a special acceleration of the view street.
No, that
was lost, Councillor. If you recall, it's going to be dealt with in the whole policy.
Yeah, sure.
And as I understand it, one of our senior planning staff was unwell for more than a week, so couldn't get through that document in time. Councillors, any further questions? If not, I'll put the minutes. All those in favour, against, that is carried. Councillor Denise Slim, can I confirm whether you voted for that?
Yes.
Yes, that is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on 6th July 2026. Moved Councillor Denise Sleeman, seconded Councillor Kassab. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. I'll put the minutes. All those in favour, against, that is carried unanimously. There are no mayoral minutes or reports. There are no petitions to be tabled and notices of motions. We now move to council reports. The first report being item 8.1, the Priory. We have two speakers to this item. The first is Mr. Craig James. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you very much.
You have 3 minutes.
I must acknowledge that I've got Parkinson's disease, so that affects the way that I speak, and just recently got Bell's palsy, and that affects the way that I speak as well, but I'll endeavour to get within these 3 minutes. I'm excited to be here tonight as Council discusses the next chapter in the life of the Priory. The buildings and grounds of the Priory have passed through a number of hands over time, and I'm hopeful that the Hunters Hill community, the council, businesses and ratepayers will agree on a new, considered, responsible and appropriate direction for the heritage asset into the future. Now, I'm taking on good journalistic practice by first going to my conclusions. I believe that the council should adopt a slow and careful or softly approach to repurposing of the Priory, characterised initially by something simple like a coffee cart or cafe and casual seating. Nothing else is required at this stage. The stunning surroundings of the Priory are already in place. I also believe that an open day should be on the list of priorities to drive a feeling of excitement and positivity about the Priory's future through the community. I also want to see ideas from the community. I also would like to see businesses committing to give up time and resources to assist in the repurposing in order to keep project costs down and generate a sense of ownership in the future direction of the Priory. Because make no mistake, finances are a key risk for the repurposing of the heritage asset. So why should we put our efforts into restoring and repurposing a heritage building such as the Priory? I believe it's because we owe a duty of care to our future generations to pass down an important part of Hunters Hill history, preserving the richness of the architecture and landscape. Just over a year ago, I saw that the risk that the Priory would fail to see its 200th birthday, with gardens not receiving the attention needed, windows broken and boarded up, and with windows and doors characterised by flaking paint. I do have a before and after pack here, so if anyone's interested, yes, in the photographs, and I can shoot that out to you after this. Well, I made modest efforts in tidying up the embellishments, but I was very well supported by council, especially Nick Tobin. I asked Nick to attend to broken glass and boarded up windows. He agreed. The windows were repaired, the boards were taken away, and it made an old man like me, sort of almost shed a tear. Now, patiently, Nick also listened to my suggestions. I hope that he means that he will be.
We just get an extension of time. Councillor Cassar moved, seconded Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Sorry, you have an extension. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, patiently, Nick listened to my suggestions. I hope that also means he will let me inside the Priory tomorrow so I can continue with my volunteer efforts in tidying up. The Priory appears to be in good shape, so it is appropriate that we're discussing the future of the Priory tonight. And I sense a real excitement in the community. As I move around the Priory, people tell me they want to be involved in any way to help with repurposing tasks. It is the community's asset, and they feel the satisfaction in contributing to the finished structure. It's also important to note that a raft of heritage businesses across Australia have been successfully restored and repurposed over time, and a whole variety, sort of different industries. Hazelhurst Art Gallery in Gymea and Felons Brewery in Brisbane, so just two of those. Some have started the restoration phase with the buildings in a derelict position. By contrast, the Priory is arguably in good shape. It sits grandly on its solid sandstone foundations, waiting for the next opportunity to serve the community. There's a raft of ways it can be repurposed: commercial businesses, hospitality, education, arts and entertainment, community meeting places, just to name a few. And I've also got a few ideas of possible revenue generating activities, such as a best friend memorial for pets that have passed, noting the River Glade Reserve and the dog walking sort of close by. The opportunities, I believe, are many, and I look forward to the journey ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And thank you for your efforts. Sorry, Craig, if you could just stay up at the podium for a moment, just if councillors have any questions. And thank you for all your efforts. I enjoyed having our little coffee meet up the road. Councillors, any questions of Mr. James? No? Oh, okay. Sorry, you're free to go. Thank you. Thank you. Our second speaker is Karen Presland. Thank you, Karen. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Hunters Hill Trust this evening about the Priory at Tarpon Creek. The Huntersville Trust agrees with the General Manager's recommendations that Council should retain the role of Crown Land Manager and develop a plan for option 2, which is Council-led remediation and activation. We encourage all councillors to support this position as we believe short-term community use is achievable without the need for large amounts of capital or sale of other precious lands if a staged approach is adopted, certainly not 5.5 million. This unique and special heritage place within our municipality has significant architectural and social significance from its establishment by the Marist Fathers in 1857 as a base for their missionaries in the South Pacific, to its subsequent history as the earliest psychiatric hospital on the Australian mainland, and finally as New South Wales health site. It is a place of beauty and tranquility in an area of increasing chaos and uncertainty. We must remember that it was saved for the community through a strong campaign by local residents and the council. It became part of the adjoining Crown Reserve with promise to remain in public hands under the care, control and management of Huntersville Council, being adapted to the New South Wales State Heritage Register now for more than 21 years. A former Liberal Mayor, Susan Hoopman, launched the Priory Preservation and Restoration Trust in late 2007 to manage the property and raise funds that led to the replacement of the slate roof, a remarkable contribution. It was then intended to be a cultural and heritage hub for the wider community with a range of ideas proposed at that time. 19 years on, it is time to relook at these ideas and realise the original vision for a vibrant community space and honour the work of previous councillors, mayors, council staff and the community by ensuring the site remains as a treasured community asset. The Trust would be pleased to collaborate with Council and participate in a working group to activate the site as a first step towards engaging the community. We've seen how the efforts of a single man, Craig James, and you've just heard from him, can make a difference to maintaining the site, and we strongly believe that a vision can be achieved with some incremental funding and small steps in the right direction. We have a lot of ideas that we believe are achievable with Council support and small applications of grant funding. We would love to share these and believe that other representatives of the community groups that could be added to an initial activation working group, such as the Rotary Club and the local art society, that would strengthen the community engagement and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Vergara.
We spoke about a working group. Is that what's proposed in the paper here? That's the type of working group you need to come together and talk about ideas?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And support the council on, yeah.
Councillors, any further questions? If not, Councillor Williams, got a question?
No, I'd like to move a motion.
Sorry, we're at questions at the moment. If
I
you
thought
could just,
you'd finished.
no, the speaker's still here. Councillors, any questions?
Anything else?
No, if not, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've given up what I'm proposing to move tonight to the staff. So
Yep.
if they pop that up, it'd be appreciated. I'll read what I'm proposing. The council receive and note the report. The General Manager investigate termination of the agreement with Priory Settlements Proprietary Limited. That the council agree to retain the role of Crown Land Manager for the Priory. That council prepare a business plan and funding options for council's consideration and a report to council within 3 months. And I'll just add an extra bit to that, which I left out. Within 3 months to activate the site for community use. 5, that the General Manager consult with the community and report back to council their expectations and vision. And that council, item 6, that council be provided with a detailed specification and cost estimates for the proposed building works.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Is that seconded? Councillor Lane. Do you wish to, I have some questions, but do you wish to speak to that proposed motion first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank Mr. James for all his work. He understated what his role has been over the last 12 to 18 months in delivering a wonderful outcome for the community and preservation of the outside of the Priory. As was mentioned by some of the speakers, the Priory is a major heritage item in Hunters Hill. It has an enormously long history, a long range of uses over the time, and people might not be aware that there used to be a golf clubhouse at one stage when there used to be a 9-hole golf course on the site.
It's the only one that plays golf here, Councillor Williams. We're not doing that again.
Oh, well, actually the memorabilia is up at Kalara Golf Course, and they have the Hunters Hill Cup each year. Anyway, I digress, but it just points out the very diverse use the community has made of the building over that period of time. And I suggest to councillors, on the Heritage Library, on the State Library, Heritage Library, there's over 20 reports about the Priory in terms of its importance, both heritage, social, cultural, all the things that make it an intrinsic part of our community. And there's a particular report that was prepared in March 2004 by Penelope Pike, a consultant to council. And in this report, if there's any doubt about the importance of the Priory, it highlights through its statement of significance all the key attributes which make it not only a local treasure, but also a state treasure. To me, looking at the lease agreement, which was back in, where was it? 2017, I believe. And part of that, that agreement made it clear that the lease would be terminated if not completed. The conditions precedent weren't completed within the 12-month period. So I think there's a good basis for council to go back and have a look at that requirement and act on it in terms of terminating the lease. It's been 7 years now that this issue has been dragged out, and in that period, the Priory has suffered. And I was lucky to have a look inside it with some of the councillors in recent times, and the condition inside, well, condition outside's exceptional, thanks to Mr. James, but also the community effort back under the leadership of Sue Hoopman and a few key community people. They drove a very strong campaign, not only to acquire it for the council from the then Property Services, which was going to flog it off, and that was a long campaign. But importantly, they raised money and grants to ensure the integrity of the outside of the building. And we can all see that today. The roof is fine, the guttering's fine, the stonework's fine, the foundations, as mentioned, are in good condition. Now, if you go inside the building, we're told it's unfit. Inside the building, the council repainted it in 2012. That seems pretty good. The flooring seems pretty good. I acknowledge there's some things that need to be done to it, toilets, electrical, whatever. But I do struggle to see, based on discussions with an architect, how it could amount to 5.5 million. And particularly if we adopt that strategy of progressive improvement of the building and progressive use. You could fix up a couple of the rooms there and immediately be put into community use, because it's a wonderful venue for having musical recitals, having art exhibitions. There's a whole range of opportunities for the community to make use of the building progressively. And I've spoken to the general manager, or it might have been the previous general manager, when a prominent artist in Hunters Hill put a proposal together for an artist in residence. And there are many ways which council can secure the future of the site. So I think it is possible to terminate the lease. I think it's important the council acknowledge and reassert its role as the Crown land manager for the Priory. And I think it needs to get into action and within a very short period of time consolidate all its own investigations to date, costings around it, but look at it in a progressive way rather than trying to do everything at once. And I would find it a bit odd if we spent 5.5 million just to then hand it over to a commercial operation. I think the fact that it has been and should retain as a community asset, I think is important in those deliberations. I think, and I know Mr. James has commented that it's hidden away and a lot of people aren't aware of it, let alone its importance. And I think the reason I put 5 in there, the general manager consult with the community, I think is an important one, that we actually start to engage and activate the community in the process. And finally, I've been requesting and suggested that I could have the cost estimates for the refurbishments. To date, that hasn't been provided, and that's why I put 6 in there. I think it's important that if there are specifications and there are cost estimates, that they be made available so we as a community, or me as a councillor, can make some value judgment as to how successful a staged approach would be. In summary, I think council has a wonderful asset there, a wonderful asset that the community can make great use of. And I think council needs to look at it as a progressive process rather than that one hit fix all. So I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Just on that last point, the cost estimates, by that you mean the quantity surveyor reporting that
Yeah,
it's the
council already has.
BCA requirements of 5.5 million.
Yes,
That's what you want. Okay, I think that can probably be circulated because there's not. I mean,
I've been
that's
asking for a long time and promised it, but never got it.
it would be on the portal. They would have had to have lodged that as part of the DA package.
No, this is a fresh cost plan that was undertaken by the lessee.
Okay. Councillors, Councillor Preston.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe to the GM or one of the directors. If council decided to terminate the agreement with the counterparty, is it feasible that council retains the role of the manager of the property? How does that
We
work?
would anyway, because
Okay.
we've had control of the property since 2007 as Crown's Lands manager. So it's not our asset.
Outside.
It's not our asset. It's the state government's asset.
No, I'm
but
aware of that.
we manage it.
We've leased it. Have we?
We had subleased it as Councillor Williams inferred with conditions subsequent.
Yeah.
And the DA that went to the panel was unsuccessful.
So,
General Manager.
So, Mr. Mayor and councillors, we have a 25-year lease on the building off the state government, even though we're still the manager under the Crown Lands. And that was to enable us to give a 25-year lease to the proponent through the expression of interest. That falls away. We've still got a 25-year lease there. We would then have to renegotiate that with any other use going forward. But even if that was to fall away, we still have care, control and management of that whole area, which is the primary.
Even without the lease agreement.
Even without the lease agreement, yeah.
That's my question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we've got the responsibility, unless we hand back the.
And what can we do with this site as the manager and not the lessee?
We've been through this process before. We had an expression of interest process where tenderers tendered.
Yep.
There was a successful tenderer that had the agreement for lease and attached lease agreement. The condition of that lease was that they were going to successfully get their DA through. That was unsuccessful, and as Councillor Williams said, for the last 6 or 7 odd years, it's been limbo.
Yeah, my question is, in the event that Councillor Williams' motion is successful, and in the event that council decides to terminate the lease, council as the manager of the property, what what can council do with the property in
We can
terms of making
either,
decisions?
we can retender, we'll have to reassess.
Retender
We can
again.
retender, we
Even
could,
not as the lessee.
not with that lessee potentially, or if they want to come back to the party, who
And
knows?
us as the lessee.
Yeah,
Council as the
yes.
lessee.
There's a lease or.
We're the lessee, we're the
Sub-
lessee and we're the lessor if that's what we opt to do.
Yes.
Yes, we would be, we are the lessee and the sub-lessor,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I'm asking that if we were no longer the lessee, i.e. the lease has been terminated, what can council do with the site as merely the manager?
Nothing, very little.
Well, it can do what's allowed under the plan of management.
Which is what?
If you've got from
Everything that you can do under the lease.
Okay.
So the plan of management allows other uses. The plan of management allows things such as educational sorts of uses there. It makes no difference with the lease. The lease was something to give to the sublessor some certainty about timing, because they wouldn't want to take on a site with only having a 7-year lease or something like that. So we had that, so that we had the avenues to go a longer term lease. But this makes no difference for our use, for any of those uses that we put up.
But we would have to, if we're going to get a tenant in,
Yeah.
you would have to give them a sublease. So we'd have to go through the same process.
No,
That's what I
they
mean.
would-
If it was a,
Could they not just become the lessee?
yes,
to
they
the
can, but
Department of Health?
the plan of management is very restrictive in what sort of leases we can issue. So we have to lease it off Crown Lands and then sublease it to a successful tenderer.
So back to my first question then, what can we actually do with the site if we are no longer a lessee? Like you can tidy it up.
You have to be more specific with your question. As a land use planning position, you can do everything that you could do otherwise. As a commercial prospect for a lessor to come in and do base building works and cover costs,
You have to
nothing.
be a lessee. Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah. Okay.
In a commercial sense.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, councillor.
Just a quick
Denise
question.
Levy.
The fourth part of the recommendation seeks establishment of a working party to assist with a plan and understanding of preferred use prior to engaging.
Dealing with that.
Sorry.
That's not the motion.
Sorry. Please continue, councillor.
However, the recommendation only allocates 2 positions on the working party for councillors out of a total of 8 people. Perhaps the third council position is warranted to ensure councillors are more engaged with the process of the significant and complex matter.
Under councillor Williams' motion, there is no working party. It's been removed.
Correct. Under the original motion, there is
Yes, under the recommended motion.
under the recommended motion.
Councillors, any questions? Question, councillor Vergara.
Probably, to the director through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just, is my understanding correct that if we are no longer the appointed manager, we can't simply walk away? We have to first resolve that we don't wish to be the manager. We then have to request that state government remove us. That can be approved or not approved. And then they've got to do something. It's not simply walk away.
We just not propose
So, or Jeff? Grills.
Is there some confusion around
leases and
the lessor and the lessee? So under the
You're
Crown,
you're the
No,
appointed
if we are to,
manager.
yeah,
we are
if
the
we're the
manager
and
under
if
the
we want to
Crown
give up
Land
management.
Management Act.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm
And
saying the process to not be Crown manager isn't simply we resolve to walk away. There is a process that has to be followed.
Correct.
It has to be considered and approved by the state government, and either a replacement manager has to be found. That can either be the state government or someone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct. And we would not only be giving up the prior, we'd be giving up the whole Riverglades reserve.
Yes.
Councillors, any further questions?
So
Councillor Priest.
thank you. Through you to the GM, just off the back of that comment, GM, does that mean that the state government would have responsibility to maintain Riverglade Reserve?
If
They're
they,
separately titled though.
yeah, but it's all part of one plan of management.
Yeah, but
So we're all under one reserve trust.
Yeah, but if your council resolved not to be Crown Lands Manager or that titled section, that wouldn't be outside of the ordinary.
You'd have to try and excise it separately.
Just from the plan of management, not in a titling.
So I think we had, I don't know, Taylor or Jeff can help me there, but it was my understanding that we, as the reserve manager, we manager of that whole reserve. And if you can't just give up a little bit of it because that building sits within that reserve.
We only got care and control of it in 07. We've been manager of Riverglade Reserve for much longer than
But I
that.
thought it was all put together.
Mm.
That's one.
But we're not proposing to do that.
No, if we were to do that,
If we were to give it back to the state government effectively.
Well, we would have to work with Crown Lands to work through the plan management and see what could be separated out and what could be kept if the Priory was not going to be part of the management requirement for Huntersville Council. We could negotiate that separately, but you would need then to have our own plan of management just for Riverglade Reserve. And then the state government could take back the Priory itself, and then they would allocate another agency to manage it.
I have a question off the back of that.
Sorry, Councillor Lane.
So just to clarify, since I don't know where the original boundaries in 2007 lay, the car park at the moment that's used for Livy's Place and the reserve, that would go with the Priory?
I think all of it, everything that's under the conservation management plan, so including the heritage curtilage and any lands that are connected with the conservation management plan would be.
Okay, so the playground sits within the curtilage. So it's not an easy. So there's the toilet block, the car park. I thought the playground was also So the playground's outside the
Playground
curtilage,
reserve.
but you would lose all your parking. You would lose your street access, and you would lose the old toilet block.
You'd lose your off-street car parking access. Yeah.
So it's not just like an easy. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think that's what's being proposed, but I think we do want to know what. I guess for me, it's a bit difficult when there is such large sums of money that need to go into the asset, and it not being our asset, it's actually the state government's. Councillor Preston.
Could we please have the motion back up on the screen?
Certainly.
Are
Are there any speakers against the motion?
I don't know because I can't see.
I have a question while it's being brought up.
Question?
I get the sense from Councillor Williams' motion that there's some concern or suspicion about the costs reported in the paper, the $5.5 million. I don't know. I read the reports from council officers and in good faith believe that they're prepared in good faith and that there's a basis for what we're saying. What's the background to the concern that the $5.5 million isn't an accurate figure?
Well, I suppose
I think that's probably more of a question to Councillor Williams.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor. The issue is that if you're going to do it sequentially or progressively, then you need to know what are the priority issues. At the moment, we're being told it's all or nothing. What I'm suggesting is there's an opportunity for us to look at the information that the council has in terms of costs and priorities in terms of what needs to be done, and then put that into the context as to how the community can make use of it. And as I said before, it may be a $5.5 million exercise, but to get it to a usable state, you may not have to invest that whole money. So I'd like to see, as I've said in the motion, in answer to the question, what were the specifications? What came out of it in terms of critical and priorities and the costs associated with that? Because we might be able to do it sequentially to get it activated at a price which council could invest in, as well as seek funding from grants. And talking to the council's own heritage officer, there are significant funds available for council on a dollar for dollar basis. And as I've said before, in the budget session, we were discussing things, and we should have put in that budget something to move this process forward. But we've just spent, I don't know, 100, 200,000, 300,000 on the roof on Henley Cottage. But up to now, we haven't been prepared to spend anything on the Priory. So my view is, let's see the details, let's see the basis for the costing, and then let's see how that might be done in a progressive way.
My understanding, Councillor Williams, is that was the base building cost to get it to Building Code of Australia, which of course we wouldn't allow anyone in from the public or a lessee or a tenant to go into any of those rooms without being at least PCA, because that would be, failing in our obligations. But I might let the general manager clarify that. But my understanding was that $5.5 million figure was just to get it to BCA as a cold shell, call it, or an empty room before you start talking about fit out costs and other remediation works.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. If you go to page 31 of the agenda, it's clear it's the fire services upgrade, BCA standards, structural repairs, floor ceilings, stairs, sandstone stabilisation. Whilst it looks good, there's significant work to be done there, and also electrical upgrades, because at the moment the building's just, you wouldn't trust the electricals in that building. We can see how long it hasn't been used for. No one would use a building without the electrical upgrades. There's no reason why we can't stage it, but actually getting it open and usable without majority of that work being undertaken, in my opinion, would be unwise, because you want the building to be safe for the community when they do use it. So it's really up to us to find a way to find the money, if that's what council wants us to do, through grants and other activities that we've reached out to various people already, and we'll continue to look for grants. The Heritage has up to $1 million a year for heritage works. We have a project in Newcastle that just received $1 million for their facade. So there are some big chunks of money that could come, but we do need, we're going to need close to 5.5 million to get it to a stage where we can then fit it out for community use. That said, you might be able to save a bit on that if but it's not, we're not looking, it's not going to be half the cost, it's not going to be 2/3. You might be able to save $500,000 or something like that by some value engineering and so forth. But we've got considerable money to spend on that building to get it to a stage where we can use it for whatever use. And what we have to remember too, that an old building will continually require money in maintenance. So whatever use we put in there in the end must provide us an income source to fund the ongoing maintenance and upgrade of that building, so that we're not in this position again in 25 years' time.
And just on before I go to further clarifications, I've now sought meetings with the Heritage Minister, the Crown Lands Minister. I've briefed the local member. The appetite by the Heritage and Environment Minister to meet with us has been disappointing on this item. She has refused to meet. I've chased her on several occasions and sent letters asking for meetings and for consideration of grant funding. Same with the Crown Lands Minister. I briefed the local member to see if he can try and advocate to try and get some grant funding just to get those base building costs done. But we have thus far been unsuccessful in lobbying the state government to try and get some funding. Councillor Prieston, you had a question? And then Councillor Denise Sleeman.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the GM, I just wanted to know, so in relation to the DA, which was off the back of the most recent tender process, that was rejected by the state.
It was
or the regional planning panel.
the regional planning panel. It was actually a report, and I wasn't here at that stage. I was here early, and then wasn't here. It was recommended, wasn't recommended for approval, and it wasn't approved by the local planning panel.
And then where is it at now? So is that dead in the water, or?
There's been no lodgement of any appeals or any review or anything like that. So it's just sitting in limbo at the moment.
And this could be a silly question, but could we revert to the tender options that council had back then?
I think that would be unwise because so much time has passed.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware of the time frame, but
so councillors, I think that because of the time that's passed, I think it would be more prudent if we were to resolve to go down that path that we retender, because a lot of those
Yeah,
tenders.
that was going to be my next question. Like, what could you do?
Another big piece of the consideration, I think, for the applicant that was successful, that does have the lease, is that at the time, sort of just as we went into COVID, the base building costs and the whole construction budget for the site was, I believe, around 12 million. That has since blown out to something that he feels is completely uncommercial. So they basically said, if you can, we now need someone to cover the base building works to at least hand over a BCA compliant building, then they can do fit out and whatever else needs to be done. But that is why this process, as I understand it, that's why it's stalled. Councillor Tanus Lehman, you had a question?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager. In the draft, in the motion put forward, there isn't an option to actually transfer it back to state, is it, at this stage?
Not in Councillor Williams's motion, no. I think it's explicitly says that the council agree to retain the role of Crown Land Manager of the Priory as point 3, which would be the antithesis of.
Sorry, clarification on the back of that. That was sort of pertinent to my question earlier, because if we retain the role of Crown Land Manager, that doesn't mean that we're the lessee of the site. If we terminate the lease in accordance with an investigation that was to be undertaken in accordance with the proposed item 2.
Councillor, right? The Priory settlement sublease being terminated does not terminate our lease to Crown Land. And we can be Crown Land Manager, and they're two different things.
No, I know, but is point 2 of Councillor Williams's motion, maybe this is the clarification. It's not clear that the termination of the agreement, it's not clear that agreement is the agreement between Hunters Hill Council as lessee and the sub-lessee.
The restaurateur.
Right.
Whose company name is Priory Settlement.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking that it was investigate the termination of the lease in place between the state and Hunters Hill.
It's the termination of the lease to our sub-lessee. We would retain in this motion the manager of the Crown Land role and the lessee role from Crown Lands.
But to exercise determination, is that covered off in point 5? The General Manager consult with the community and report to council their expectation and vision.
I don't believe. I think that you would have to believe if that is your proposal, councillor, you would have to explicitly put that into a motion or put an amendment up, because I don't think that this, if that's your desire, I don't think that this would cover that. Councillor Cassell.
Can I foreshadow a motion?
Yes, you may.
Sorry.
Have you? You've got sent it through.
Yeah.
You just read out your foreshadowed, and then we'll move back into debate. Sorry.
Okay, so 1 is note the report. 2, that the General Manager investigate options to terminate the agreement with Priory Settlement Pty Ltd. 3, that a business plan and funding options for the continued Crown Land management of the Priory to be prepared for Council's consideration. 4, that a new expression of interest for adaptive reuse of the Priory to be investigated. And 5, that Council takes steps to initiate and support a community letter writing campaign calling for the state Labor government to support funding the Priory restoration works, including by 1, announcing the campaign in Council communications and socials. 2, providing a proposed letter template which can be personalised by residents. 3, identifying the following ministers as appropriate recipients of the advocacy letters. And then that below that is the Honourable Penny Sharp, MLC, the Honourable Steve Camper, the Honourable Ron Honing, MP, and the Honourable Daniel Mookie, MLC.
Thank you, councillor. We'll now move back into debate on the
Is there a
motion on the floor. Yes.
Thanks.
Councillors, we do have a motion moved and seconded. We have a speaker for. Are there any speakers against? Any speakers for? Councillor Lane.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I note that the first 4 points in the original motion, the proposed motion, and also the foreshadowed motion are largely the same. So we all seem to agree that we're looking to terminate the lease with priority settlement, to retain the role of grant manager and business plan and funding options. So, which is great.
Can I just,
Councillor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
in the delivery of the motion, I added in after within 3 months to activate the site for community use. That doesn't seem to be picked up.
Okay.
In addition to what I had done, which I raised at the time. Sorry. So just to complete.
Site for community use. It's for, and that's explicit, the community use, no commercial uses at all. That's explicit. Okay. Councillor Lane, you have the call.
I'll have to amend my statement. So they're largely consistent, but for the addition and the 3 months. I think, therefore, what I had understood, I'll deal with this in a sec, but what I'd understood the differences was on the one hand, we were looking to get a business plan and options and then come back. We also have a foreshadowed motion to get an EOI out, and then we have the working party and just talking about sort of the relative merits of each. I think, firstly, just as a note, if we'd exercised our right of termination when the DA was first rejected 6 years ago, and we were able to get $1 million a year in heritage grants, that would have more than paid for all of the works that we needed to do, if it's $5.5 million. I think that the other thing is that there's sort of 2 ways that you can stage work. So you can stage works by doing all of the electrical and all of the sandstone. But when we all walked through the site, we saw that 2 wings were in pretty good nick, and then the 3rd wing was in a much worse nick. And I believe that's also the one that needs to be underpinned, which is the one that's closest to Livy's place. So we may be in a position, once we have a bit of a business plan, to understand a partial occupation of the site, which again, once we understand what the costs are and the options, could actually be quite interesting. But also, I think Mr. James made an interesting point, which is you don't actually need to occupy the interior of the site in order to start to make other uses of it. So I think a coffee cart is a great idea. Those that know Strickland House and Milk Beach, way back in the Stone Age, I had my 30th birthday there. You can occupy the grounds without occupying Strickland House. In fact, it's very hard to get into Strickland House. So there are definitely ways that we can start to look at using the site in the round without necessarily getting into the building, particularly now that we have a temporary toilet there. And maybe step 1 is trying to get a permanent toilet in for both Livy's place and for the other uses on the site. But to go back to that original comment, I think if what we're really talking about is, do we go to an EOI, do we get a business case, or do we start a working group? I'd suggest that after 7 years, we probably don't, we do understand the constraints well enough that what we probably need are the figures to make a decision. And so from that point of view, I'm not opposed to an EOI going out. I think, though, we do need to have that precursor step of just understanding a little bit more about these costs and also a business plan, because at the moment we've just not got enough information to make a call. And I can see a world where those 2 motions come together. It might require an amendment to the amendment we just made, but we could potentially look for a community use and an EOI for other uses, and also to write, obviously, to people asking for funds. And in that case, I think we've actually got the grounds to move forward more quickly rather than throwing it to a group to discuss. So I'm in favour of the motion, but I'm also in favour, depending on the mover and the foreshadowed motion mover's opinion, of a combined motion as well, looking at both.
I don't disagree with you, Councillor. I think they're actually fairly similar apart from some wording. But is the intention, Councillor Williams, is that we don't have a commercial expression of interest? You don't want a commercial user in there? Is that the tenor of your motion?
I think probably the word community is very restrictive. And I didn't intend that, because there may be other uses that are compatible, rather than going down a major redevelopment of the site. So I'm open to another word or addition to that, the site for community and other adaptive purposes. Would be community use and other adaptive purposes. I'd be happy to add that on to it. Because, yeah, I do see that that could be very restrictive.
I'm slightly in your hands, councillors Williams and Lane, as to whether or not you wish to make any amendments or not.
Yes, I'll add that on to Paul that we.
And any of the other items, or are you
I
comfortable?
think letter writing is fine. We can add that in. But I don't see there being any benefit at this stage to go out for another tender process.
I think for clarification, which is what Councillor Cassell's about to say, is to investigate an EOI, not to issue an EOI. Much like the investigations that you're talking about in your motion, but I'll leave that to debate.
Okay, you could add that in, as long as it's investigated, we're not moving down that path. But I think that addition to my 4 would be useful. And if you want to add in that issue about investigate rather than do, because I think we have been through a process over the last 7 years of testing the waters. As you said, Mr. Mayor, the costing has just gone through the roof for a commercial operator. Even the original costings back 7 years ago was $3 million requirement in the lease to restore it to its original condition prior to that, adding on to it. We're now saying just to get it to a BCA level, it's 5.5. So I think it is well beyond, you can test it, but I think it's well beyond any commercial use, particularly if I'm not quite sure whether council would not be requiring that original requirement of building into any commercial lease the requirement to upgrade the building to its heritage condition prior to it being added to. I think that was an important thing in the original lease.
Okay, councillor. Again, I'm going to need you to be explicit about what you'd like to add in there, councillor Preston. If you would like to make additions, but if you don't wish to, you'd like to add the letter writing campaign component and the expression of interest investigation.
Yes.
And
modify community use to be site for community use and other adaptive uses.
is there anything else, councillor Cassell, that's not covered in your foreshadowed motion that you need to explore? Just while we post those. And that's it. We'll just get this. Let's have number 4. Okay, Councillor Williams, are you comfortable with those 2 additions?
Yes.
7 and 8?
Yes, but we haven't modified 4, which I think.
For community and activation
Or other adaptive reuse.
or other adaptive reuse.
That's
Look after community.
Yeah.
Or community or other adaptive reuse. Okay, councillors, are we all on the same page?
Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Preston, did you have a question?
Oh, my question was just going to be, I was just going to say, so basically it's the same as the business paper motion, aside from there's a 3-month time period to prepare the business plan. There's no community working group, and now there's letter writing. But otherwise,
Largely, yes.
It's the same.
Yes. There's some tweaks to the one that's in the paper. Yeah. Councillors, any speakers against the motion? For the motion, Councillor Vergara, I think you got there just before Councillor Preston.
I'll speak for the motion. So my view is that this is an important asset for the area. I think where councillor Sleeman was going is it cannot just sit there for another 20 years and nothing happen with it. And so at some point we might have to make some tough choices, but our idea of the funding was we should be putting pressure on the state government. It is a significant asset, the state asset, and so the cost of restoring it and conserving it shouldn't fall on local residents only. So I do think it's important to have a campaign. I provided a template letter that can be used and personalised for people to send to put some pressure on the government to get money to spread this cost of not just an asset that's important to Hunters Hill, but the whole state. So I am for doing all we can to get this asset to a point where it is conserved, restored, makes money for us, adds value to us as a community, and where the costs are shared appropriately.
Thank you, councillor Bergara. Councillor Prieston, did you wish to speak for the motion?
Yeah, just briefly. I am in favour of the motion, I think mainly because I like the idea of council retaining the role of Crown Land Manager for the Priory. I think it would be a shame to see the Priory sold to private owners. I think we've obviously had an opportunity to do something at this site for a really long time. My very first job, actually unpaid, was working with Margaret Kelly in council. I think I was in year 9 or something, and we worked on a fundraiser. So this must have been like 2009 or 10 or something like that. Worked on a fundraiser to, hey, are you laughing at my age? We worked on a fundraiser for the Priory with, I think Sue Hoopman was the mayor at the time. So I appreciate that we've had many attempts at revitalising the site. I am sad that it's going to cost so much to get the building up to scratch, and I'm not quite sure that we've solved the issue there, but I take points around the table that there's different ways we could go about approaching the refurbishment of the site just to bring it back up to relatively standard use, like doing it in stages, for example. I'm not sure, but I think this motion captures the fact that we can do it in a few different ways, and we can hopefully end up with agreement on how we can use the Priory for the community, but also make it, because I guess my reservation is I don't want it to just become a museum or a library or an empty room. Like, I would love to see this site become actually usable. A coffee cart is a great idea in the interim, something like that. Like, I think I want it to be enticing for today's modern community, but equally I know that we can't afford to spend as much as $5.5 million on our own accord. Hence why I also think that the letter writing campaign to state government calling for them to assist us on the fund side is appropriate. So I guess all in all, hopefully we can get this up to scratch so that the community can actually have the opportunity to finally use the Priory for something actually good and quality.
Thank you, councillor. Any speakers against the motion? For the motion?
Against the motion.
Councillor
I'll be against the
Sleeman.
motion, depending if we can.
Very decisive of you, councillor.
I've got to be flexible. My only concern is that we just don't have timeframes. There are a couple of timeframes, but I just want to know how much time and effort we're applying against this. So do we, there's only a timeframe in terms of executing a business plan and funding options. Where do we draw the line? The expression of interest, how long do we keep that open for? There's just no timeframes. That's my concern, that we don't have specific timeframes to some of these options. I think they're a great option, by the way, but we do need to put some timeframes around it. If councillor.
Sorry, just pass to the general manager, because I think that he just made a comment that it would actually probably be in the business plan.
Yes,
that came back to council in 3 months.
We'll have to have all that time frame built into it. When we go out to expression of interest, how we do it, if we do it, And if we don't do that, what else would you?
So
be
within
doing?
3 months after passing this motion, we should get a paper looking at our options.
Yeah, guys, I reckon. No. Do our best.
Very good signals, but, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any speakers against the motion, for the motion? I'll speak very briefly before I hand it back to Councillor Williams for his right of reply. Obviously, it's not an ideal scenario when we have to get base building cost of an asset that is, and we talk about cost shifting often in local government, but this is a big cost shift. A building that is has been deteriorating and had deteriorated for a long period of time, that has had the Department of Health, fairly uncharacteristically renovate the interior and with very little semblance of thought to the heritage fabric of the building. That being said, I was very supportive at the time when we did run the expression of interest process, and we did have a applicant that was ready to go and restore the item and put their money where their mouth is. It is sad that we activated that precinct with Libby's Place, and we had this staged options for amenities, cafe, and something that would actually bring the Priory back to its former glory. And that's not come to fruition. So I think that we've been able to, as a whole council, navigate where we need to. And I don't think there's much difference in opinion around the table about where we should be going with this. But it would be sad for us to hand back the item. I agree, but I do also think that the onus should be on the state government to at least cover the base building works on their own building, for us then to be able to manage it for the community. It is a state heritage item. It is a significant historical item in Hunters Hill and broader Sydney, but we need to have a dose of reality about how we treat it going forward. And I take the General Manager's view, which is the view we should hold with all items, that they need some commerciality to them so that they have a sinking fund so that we don't get into this situation again. There are considerable building works that need to happen on the site. It needs to be repointed. There's sandstone damage to the foundations. The roof was restored. I remember that fundraiser, Councillor Preston, I think it was at number 1 Passy Avenue, unfortunately. But the restoration of the roof and guttering has effectively saved the building, and the interior is a mess. Mr. James, if you get in there, you'll probably concur. And it does need significant work. So to get it up to get any building like this up to BCA with fire compliance and the electricity is a big job. And I don't think you'd see much change out of the sort of figures that the General Manager's put in the report tonight. That being said, I think we do need to get on and move. Sorry, Craig, we can't take comments from the floor, although I appreciate the work that you and the community have done to beautify the building. I think we need to get on with it, and whatever direction we go in, we just need to resolve to do it, whether it's an expression of interest or some part activation in the meantime. One thing is clear, we can't let it sit for another 10 years, and we can't let it sit on our balance sheet costing the ratepayers money. Councillor Williams, right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems to be consensus around the table, so I'll be brief. I think we shouldn't lose sight of what Mr. James has done, and that is representative of what was done many years ago by the community. And I'd be interested to know whether the trust fund that they set up is still active and whether it actually has any funds residual in it. Because, as you mentioned, the community did rally around the building, did cherish the building, and was prepared to put money and time and effort in it, in at least getting the roof and the guttering done. So I think council needs to look at working with the community, and that's why I put the thing in there about the General Manager starting this dialogue with the community, to see how we can harness that community spirit, a community desire for this building to be active. Because I agree, unless we do something quick, and I think the fact that we've now secured the outside and painted it and the windows, that makes it look wanted. And no building will survive if it's not wanted. and or doesn't look as though it's wanted. You can get vandals and a whole range of undesirable outcomes. So we need to work very quickly to come to a resolution of what use we can put to the building and how we fund it. It is an imperative, and that's why I put a 3-month time frame. Maybe council staff have to push things around a little bit to meet that, but I think the building is so important, not only at a state level, but particularly at a council and community level, that it's worth the effort.
Thank you, councillor. Put the motion, all in favour.
Aye.
Against, that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, we now move to item 8.2, Buffalo Creek Reserve Upgrade Concept. We have 2 speakers for this item. I first welcome Tessa Anthony to the lectern. Tessa, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Cecilia and I'm lucky enough to work for AFL New South Wales in the infrastructure and facilities team. And I thank you for the opportunity to come today and talk in support for the recommendations of the report 8.2 Buffalo Creek Reserve Upgrade Concept. AFL New South Wales strongly supports the adoption of the concept plan as a strategic document, and council support for seeking external funding to enable the next steps of this project to move forward. That being investigation, design, and ultimately delivery. This project presents an important opportunity to increase access to sport within the community here. There are no AFL ovals in the LGA, I'm sure you're aware, and we just have the one set of posts that we put in Buffalo Creek a couple of years ago. We do have about 185 registered AFL participants in the LGA. For reference, about 60% of those are under the age of 15. And as the numbers are growing, and they are growing significantly in New South Wales, particularly in women and girls, we need to make sure that we have facilities that cater for that demand. And it's also, Buffalo Creek provides a great opportunity to look at inclusive planning from the outset of designing a facility. What's really exciting for us is not just the AFL opportunity, it's, I guess, the opportunity to better utilise the space down in Buffalo Creek. It is a great community space. I've had the opportunity to be down there quite a bit, a really beautiful space and a unique space. And we think we can improve it to increase access for the local community, families and youth, help support volunteers and club, and create a more functional, inclusive and flexible space. The concept plan provides a practical pathway forward with the 2 oval opportunities that are presented. So the one, which is a really good sized junior field that can cater for under 15s boys and girls competition. The other size is the minimum AFL full size requirement, which could cater for adult and open school competition. This flexibility allows future decisions to be guided by feasibility, funding, environmental considerations, community feedback, and long-term participation outcomes. We recognise the need for this project to be delivered responsibly. Our partnership between AFL and Council to date has already supported these high-level concept plans and other background studies. AFL New South Wales remains committed to working with Council and ensuring that the next stages are environmentally responsible, financially feasible and responsive to community needs. With the continued work with Council, with our local volunteers and clubs such as Lane Cove Hunters Hill Cats, we think Buffalo Creek has the potential to be a really welcoming and inclusive space that supports growth and participation and better access to sport and AFL for the community. It's for these reasons that we strongly support the recommendations and look forward to continuing to work with councils to realise this opportunity.
Thank you, Tessa. I think that the Hunters Hill Cat sounds better than the Lane Cove Hunters Hill Cat. Just putting it out into the ether. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Just on I've got a couple of questions. Assuming this is adopted tonight, the AFL's capacity to chip in or work with state and federal agencies, what would you see the funding pathway? Obviously, this again, we're speaking about council funding things before, and I always view this as something that would be largely funded by the code and potential grant funding opportunities.
Yeah.
What would the capacity of AFL be to either chip in or coordinate grant funding opportunities
Yeah. So our
or
first,
for the club? that
yeah.
is? Yeah.
So ideally, we're all aligned. So the club, council, and AFL are aligned with the same vision, and we would be looking at advocating to get external funding. So AFL, there is a capacity for AFL to chip in, but our first call will be looking for external funding. There will be significant costs to get this up to the standard, I guess, required. But we think we're strong advocates, and we have been really successful in being able to get funding for projects across the state. And that would be the key role that we'd be playing as an advocate, working together with council and club to get external funding, and then to see what shortfall there is and how AFL itself would contribute.
Excellent. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, there's no indication of cost in the concept plan. What's your expectations as to how much money would be required to deliver on that concept?
We know it's not going to be a cheap project to deliver. That's probably why we want permission to be able to go out and start advocating early to try and get some funding. We're expecting, I mean, I can give ballpark figures, but I'd say between $1 and $5 million. That's what.
That's everything, the field, the buildings, realignment.
There's further investigative work, and I guess that's one of the key bits that needs to be done first, that would really understand how to manage some of the environmental constraints on that site, which would be key to determining the full costs. Once we have that, that gives us a picture of how much we need to go out and what I think would be the ballpark that we're sort of looking at. With that money, what can be delivered, but we'd probably need a bit more of that work, which I know council have been looking at, to say what is it exactly that we need to deliver.
And what's your time expectations?
We want this as soon as possible, and I think the club will probably say they want it now, but we're also, I mean, I guess we're comfortable. We don't have a expiry date on this either. We know that there's opportunities, I guess, where we can start advocating currently, which we want to act on. But from a strategic point of view, we do see this as a valuable asset, which AFL are committed to seeing.
Did you say $1 to $2 million?
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Yeah.
Oh, that's chump change for AFL New South Wales. Come on. But I have a serious question.
Councillor Vigara.
Serious question.
We value it twice the price.
Will this concept proposal, if it gets delivered, will it increase the carrying capacity of that field, at least for AFL?
But yeah, you'd have to increase the carrying capacity of that field.
Carrying capacity of that field currently for AFL is 0.
I thought there was already.
Only very little, like juniors. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the key things would be getting this field to a standard that it could manage competition or regular use. And I know Glenn's going to talk a bit more about that.
Great, thanks.
Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Lane.
Thank you. Just, sorry, if I could ask for some further clarity on the 1 to 5 million, does that include the buildings or is that just the oval?
Can I say that is we're really going to have to wait, and I'll refer to the council officers here. It could be 1 to 5, it could be double that until we really start getting some of these.
QS probably.
These numbers, which we're due to be getting soon. I should say from AFL, we're not shocked by what things cost, particularly in Sydney. So we understand what an oval will cost, and then we understand building costs, and we'll have an idea of I guess a cost will come back to us. If we see it as strategically important, then we'll look to seek and justify how we can get that external funding to support that project. But I can't really give you more details on what the project costs would be until we've got some of that.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think I'd only be surprised on the low end if you said you could deliver 2 buildings in an AFL field for $1 million. I think you could go into business building apartments. But I think. Before we get to that, and it's interesting you say that there's a QS coming, can you just touch on how the concept plan came about in the first place?
Yes, initially a couple of years ago, we're going right back. So we sort of started engaging with council around exploring opportunities at Buffalo Creek. I think it was in some of your strategic documents that we look at that, particularly at Buffalo Creek, as an AFL opportunity, and that's when we installed the posts and we started getting some activity down there. Then from that, I guess we've looked at what is the opportunity to actually put a proper AFL facility, not just posts and some activations, but how could we put in an oval and put in a field? Understanding that, you know, this is a small council, but it's in a, you know, an area where there is a lot of AFL participation around and a lot of potential. And so working with council and also looking at our end around could this be possible? We've sort of continued with some of the background documents, and then more recently sort of started working on a concept plan just to see, can we fit an AFL field, an amenity building? How would that work? And that's how this high-end sort of concept plan came about.
Okay, but I guess the reason I'm asking is it's not just a field, it's also a facility and a multi-function hall. So is that from you or is that from council? Which parts of the
from AFL's, like from AFL's perspective, our priority would be the field and the amenity building. So the change rooms, the toilets, the kiosk.
Yeah.
In that, the consultant that we had on board suggested a community room, which we also, you know, consider valuable. But for us, a priority, and if we were staging it out and we we're looking at that funding, it would be, you know, to get a field and then the amenity to make sure that they could operate.
Oh, okay. So Sam Crawford suggested the other. Okay, and then just last question was. I noticed in your sketches, it requires the removal of a significant number of trees. I think it's in what is numbered 03 on Crawford Architects sketches. Have you looked at the impacts as part of your investigations?
I think that's probably why there's the two sizes that have been put forward as well. So
they both remove quite a few trees. Just some removes more.
Yeah. So that's
the next stage is the project actually contemplate.
It will give you an opportunity in a second, Glenn. But we'll just,
But yeah, so along those lines of, I guess what this is now saying is, this is a high level concept plan of what we could fit, what we think we could fit on that site, and what would be worth if we're investing millions of dollars, and realistically, what we'd need in, you know, what community would expect for that, or what a funder would expect for that.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate that there's tree removal, and so I guess the next stage would be, and that's why we've said, you know, the next stage is not delivering this. The next stage is continued investigation, design, and then ultimately delivery. But there's still a bit of work to be done.
Yeah, no, it just helps because the motion itself was about adopting it, and if we haven't done those works, it is material that thanks.
Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just getting back to the costing situation. Are you talking about a dollar for dollar with council, or are you talking about the all the money?
So we're looking at getting support, I guess, to seek external funding. We don't know what that number is, and then what AFL wants to do though is work with council where we can go out and advocate for funding for this project. So there's no particular model in place. It's just we can't advocate for money at the moment when we have nothing to show. We don't know that council, we have nothing to show that council's supporting us putting an AFL field, or putting an AFL field, not us, but council putting an AFL field. We'd like to support council delivering and improving the facilities at Buffalo Creek. But I guess for us, having a high-level concept plan helps us with that advocacy, trying to seek that money. Not all necessarily in place. It's once we have the plans, once we know how much it is, then we can go out and start doing that. But we can't do that until we've got council.
And once there is an adopted, even if it is a concept plan adopted by council, it is a lot easier to raise external funding because there's a question mark or barrier that's been removed effectively. Councillor Williams.
Just on that question about funding, from your experience doing this type of project and requesting funding, does the grants and whatever cover the total package, or would you be expecting council and the community to contribute to it? If you are, is it like, what is that normal type of funding? Is it a dollar for dollar, or is it total package of $5 million that would pay for the whole thing?
There's a dollar for dollar is actually quite rare. Like that's usually not that expectation for council to, but it really depends on the facility. There isn't a model out there. Every facility and like depending on where we get the funding from, we negotiate to try and get the best outcome, and we look at what funding sources there are to get that outcome. So I can't. There's not a model that I would say is more.
Just one
Absolutely,
final
yep.
question. I'll press the point on timing because it's quite important in terms of the decision tonight. What is your expectation? Like realistically, you've got to get funding, you've got to do all this extra stuff. When would you expect to play on the field? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Like, give me a feeling.
I would. It'd be a number of years before this is because there's still investigation and design work that needs to be done as well as seeking that funding. So I'd anticipate it's not something that's going to. And there's still, I guess, from council's end, the Crown Land Manager responsibility that needs to be looked at. So we see this probably in that midterm. Ideally, it would be that not immediate, but it would be getting all the unless money somehow expose itself, we would see this sort of a 3-year.
State elections in March.
Which would be great. If we suddenly had somebody giving council all the money, or this project all the money to deliver it, then we could ideally work with council, or ideally council could accelerate it. Our expectation without that is it's probably from an AFL New South Wales point of view, that midterm. So just 3 to 5 years.
Councillors, any further questions? If not, thank you, Tessa. Our last speaker is Glenn Poynton. Thank you, Glenn. President of the Hunters Hill Cats.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. And Zacky's right. I'm the president of the Lane Cove Hunters Hill Cats, or the Hunters Hill Lane Cove Cats, as he keeps trying to convince me. So we are the local club that serves the community. You may not have heard of us. More than 30% of our members already come from the Hunters Hill LGA. 4 of our committee members, 3 of our executive residents of the Hunters Hill Council. So we are part and parcel. And for a little bit of trivia, I actually live closer to the council chambers here than I do to the Lane Cove Council chambers, as I found out coming across again tonight. So I wanted to start with a little bit of background as to why we think this is important. There's about 2,300 children between the ages of 5 and 17 in the Hunters Hill LGA. I'm telling you guys your own numbers, but that's about 17% of the population, right? So there's a real need for these sorts of sports facilities in the community, right? There's a real problem today with Buffalo Creek. Our club can only run Auskick and Superkick. So translating that to normal people, that's kids between the ages of 5 and 8. Field's not big enough for bigger kids. So we started running that event at Buffalo Creek going from 0. We've now got over 30 kids that are doing that. Half of our sessions this season have been cancelled due to wet. So the field as it sits at the moment cannot deal with rain. It gets boggy, it's dangerous, it's really problematic. So, you just can't get that happening. So we're trying, there's demand going from 0 to 30 kids straight away, basically right in the LGA right now. So the report that you have in front of you tonight explains why this is a constraint, right? You've got a field, you've got a demand, but can't support the requirement for anything over that really young age group. It can't support the regularity of games, which is really problematic. So all the kids that are interested in AFL are going outside the LGA at the moment, as Tessa mentioned. I would suspect if you put it, the type of field that we're talking here, the growth will really skyrocket. And that's what you want. You want kids playing sport. You want them off their phones. And you want them engaging as a community and becoming contributors. So I want to be clear as we work through this, and there's some great questions tonight, of what you're actually looking to endorse tonight. It doesn't commit you to build it, right? It doesn't commit you to any particular design. What we're asking for tonight is actually endorsement of a concept plan and to move to the next stages of planning. We can change the direction of that as you get into it, but to seek funding, and to your points there about timing, we need to start now to advocate for funding so you can work all your way through the design phases. So it's still going to be a long project, but you need to start and need to get it moving. So I'd really like to advocate for the 2,300 odd kids between the ages of 5 and 17. We really need this field. It would be a great contribution to the community. It would be fantastic to see Buffalo Creek activated. I'm not sure whether you guys go down there. It's a pretty sad and lonely place. I know you've been investing in improving it. But it can be better.
Move extension of time, councillor Williams, second councillor Casabo. All those in favour? Against, that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mayor.
So thanks very much, guys. Look, we'd love to see it be a really usable part of the community. I think it would be a fantastic environment. I'd love to take any questions.
Councillors, any questions of Glenn? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, where are you based at the moment? Like,
Great question. Literally 100 metres from Buffalo Creek. So that's right, Blackman Park. So we've been at Blackman Park since 2009. We have about 900 people associated with the club playing various different types of sport. As I was saying, about 30% of those are actually outside of the Lane Cove LGA, primarily Hunters Hill, East Ryde. So we already get a lot of people coming across. I think if you activate that facility there, you're going to see a lot of kids engage with the sport. We're at the point where if you can keep kids in sport, the outcomes are just fantastic. I'm getting to the point now, I've been involved in the AFL long enough that I now know kids that started in under fives that are at university, and that contribution to community, they're so connected that they really want to give back. So it's a great thing to do.
Glenn, I've got a question. Just in terms of location, Blackman's obviously, I've got two questions. Blackman's going to be closed for a period of time, isn't it?
Blackman synthetic was upgraded relatively recently, so we're actually through that component. The one regional area that you might be thinking about that will have to close at some point in the next 18 to 24 months is probably going to be Gore Hill, which is another really important regional facility for AFL. So that may well come offline. But there's also this just rate of growth, like AFL is growing at double digits.
And the location's sort of fairly central to Ryde, LGA, Hunters Hill, Lane Cove.
Correct.
Is that your feeder?
That's right.
What's the nearest comparable club? It's not till
so
Ryde.
there is a small club in North Ryde.
Yeah.
Very small. I think they have one or two teams, and then you would be going. I'll check with Tessa here. Sorry. That's right. You'd probably be going further west. Yeah. So if you're looking in this sort of area which is kind of bounded by the natural kind of areas of water, Lane Cove is the key one, and then you go further west right out to almost Parramatta for the next.
But that would be a fairly convenient location for a field of like a home, effectively a home ground. I'm not saying home ground, but
it would effectively become a home ground, because the vision that we have for it as a club, and it's why we put so much energy into the younger age group. And if you're thinking ahead a couple of years to construct, you're going to take that under 5 age group right through, it would become a home for AFL for kids in this catchment area.
The district, yeah.
And typically what happens, and getting into the detail of running a sports club, you're always trying to recruit more kids, but typically the big problem is retaining teenagers. And what happens then is you really want those kids to be able to come together and play with other kids at the same level. And so what we'd be really wanting to do is actually continue to build Lane Cove, but be building Buffalo Creek as a home. And as the kids get older, they'd actually join and play in the same teams. So we're expecting to be playing a lot of football out of Buffalo Creek.
Councillors, any other questions? Yes, there we go.
Who closes the field? You talk about when it gets wet.
So closing Buffalo Creek, it would be a council decision. And probably quite sensible decision, but the field does need some upgrades.
I have very fond recollections of playing a grand final under-9 cricket match there where the outfield was knee-deep water.
Yes.
I didn't play as much.
I know.
I was going to say, you play cricket.
No, I think we could talk about that quite a bit, but I think expectations these days are much higher around safety and what have you. So
Councillor Williams.
You mentioned synthetic turf. What are your expectations for that location?
I think it's really the process that we need to go through. So I think at this stage, the team are actually looking at what is an appropriate surface for that area. I'm a club president. I'm not a sports field surface person.
Probably need to look at those or reserve mark on that. What would be your expected utilisation?
Expected utilisation?
Like how often would you need the field? Or
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on the fullness of time. I think in the early days, we'd be looking to put all the younger age groups through there. We'd want to start to play junior games there, which would typically be a Sunday. If we can get the larger format, I'd love to play senior women's football there, which would typically be a Saturday. If the independent schools are interested in the location, that would typically be a Friday or a Saturday. So there's a lot of content. The answer really, again, it would be a council controlled asset. So it'd be up to what do you guys want to put on there. But there is a lot of content that could find a home at Buffalo Creek.
I'm just trying to balance up what's in the report that says that there'll be other uses of the site, what opportunities other sporting groups or residents to enjoy the area would be. If you're utilising it all weekend and on Fridays, then that would probably curtail a bit of the other use.
Well, I think my experience from other fields is typically the weeks are shared between different sporting codes. And then it really comes down to what do the weekends look like. I think Hunters Hill has done a great job of investing in other locations. Baranya Park is sensational. You've got a number of great sports fields here. So it comes down to how do you want to actually make use of that.
Do you play AFL all year round, or is it a winter sport?
At the moment, it's a winter sport. I think the AFL would love us to play all year round. We need more fields to do that because typically, and back to your code-sharing component, in Sydney, there just aren't enough fields. So come 30th of August, I hand over the field to the cricket club, who we really hate, and then I step across and put my other hat on because I'm a committee member of the cricket club as well. But and then cricket tends to run the fields during summer, or rugby, soccer, depending on which particular field it is. But we typically work really closely with the other sports.
Councillors, any further questions? If not, thank you, Glenn.
Fantastic.
Councillors, I'm happy to move the motion. Sorry, Councillor Vergara. Seconded. I think this is a great concept, and thank you to the AFL for putting all the work in. Just addressing some of the points. NESROC did a study a couple of years ago about sports fields in the Northern region, and we don't have enough of them. So it's been a little bit mad for Hunters Hill to have this field, which is being maintained as a field down there with very limited use. Since Pirates Cricket gave up the site, AFL is the sole user generally of that space. It does need significant work. Obviously, you can't have knee-deep water and play AFL effectively. It's been great since we put the juniors goals down there to see AFL using it occasionally. But this concept will allow us to lean on the AFL and assist the AFL in seeking grant funding. And as I say, it would be great to get this away with contributions from the state government, the federal government, and potentially the AFL, like so many other community assets that we've upgraded, Baranya Park, Lazel Reserve recently. Very happy to leave it at that, and we'll get into debate, but hopefully we won't need a lot of debate on this item. Councillors, any speakers against the motion? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note all the information we've got tonight that there's a need. However, I don't think the report before us today gives me an ability to support what's in the motion. For example, we talk about adopt in one, but if you look in the report, there's no word adoption. It's very confusing because we talk about on page 40, noting, council notes and on page 41, we talk about endorsing. nowhere in the report do we talk about adoption and what adoption means. We get very confused as to what the intent of the resolution would be. I also raise the concerns. I know you mentioned Baronia Park facility as being a model. However, for all good intention, the original budget was 3 million and it ended up being 7.2. So we've got to be very mindful of getting the numbers right before we embark on an exercise to make sure we have the confidence to deliver rather than just build unreal expectation that we're going to provide a facility. And we're talking about something that's a long way out. So do we have to make the decision today? I would suggest we don't. I would suggest the first thing we need to do is to be in a position to move forward with this, and that's the Crown Lands. Become the Crown Land Manager. Before we do that, we can't do anything. So I would see that as a priority in this process before we do anything else, before we spend further staff resources. We heard tonight that the staff are stretched to breaking point, and we don't have funds for a range of things. We just talked about the priority, and the need to get a clear direction for that and a budget for that. So we're spreading staff very thinly if we're going to take on this project right at this point in time, particularly seeing we don't have a clear direction from the Crown Lands Department that they would entertain going through this process. I come back to Baronia Park. We had the situation where the site was obviously potentially contaminated, which clearly, when I first came to Hunters Hill, that was an open tip. And the gate was never locked. Staff just tunneled in there, and I've got no idea what's under that capping. So we do have a very big unknown quantity in terms of potential disruption or exceptional costs associated with any works on that site. And that is why it is what it is today. It's not a developed site as such, but it has a playing field, which that playing field was intended for junior sport. Now we're saying it's not fit at the moment, but we're going to spend, from the reading of the report, $140,000 on progressing proposal, whereas I would think if we spent $140,000 on fixing up the surface of the existing oval, then we could get immediate activation of the site, and we can work down the path of a further process with the club. So, as I said, I think the first step is to actually get our role as land manager cleared up before we start building expectations. And we talk about project and deliverables and a whole range of things, but I don't see a project plan. I don't see how we're going to work our way through it. There's a whole series of investigations required. In recommendation 2, it's unclear as to who's paying for those investigations, because if you go over the page to page 39, halfway down, you talk about a whole lot of technical studies, which are very expensive, that it appears that council's going to be paying for. Where's the money, and how we move forward? So in summary, I think we're just getting too far ahead of ourselves. The concept may have merit, but there's a few steps we have to go through before we could go down that path. And I'm very mindful of making sure that the staff have the time to do other priority projects without loading new projects on top.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any speakers for the motion? Councillor, no one speaking for the motion, for or against the motion?
I'd like to move an amendment
Councillor Lane, move an amendment.
Sorry, I'm just typing. I can narrate it otherwise.
You'll have to narrate it.
Sure. If we can add a 1 before adopt. And then the 1 is just council to investigate tree removal and not ground conditions, geotechnical conditions and remediation associated with the former landfill.
The council
To investigate
tree
tree removal and geotechnical and remediation investigations associated with the former landfill. And in 2, subject to no significant adverse findings, comma, and then as it's currently written, adopt. Yep.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? That has lapsed for lack of a seconder. Councillors, any speakers for the motion? Against the motion? Councillor Lane.
This is a capped landfill with a clay cap, and it's flooding, which would indicate that the clay is very close to the surface. And it also, all the options involve removing a significant number of trees. Some of those trees are removed not for the oval, but to build a multi-purpose hall, which is surplus to the core needs of the plan. And so I don't think it's in a state that we should adopt it. I suggested that we could at least do those investigations to do so, but I think otherwise we're effectively, deciding that we're going to build a cafe without even considering, why or whether or not the trees that are being removed for the cafe and amenities building are the appropriate way. Sorry, the trees are in the amenities building, but the amenities building itself is moved in order to fit in the multi-purpose hall. So as Ross is much more Councillor Williams has much more eloquently put, it's just not ready for adoption.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers for the motion? Councillor
Question.
question.
Are there any significant financial liabilities and risks if council were to become the Crown Lands manager? And if so, what if other governments went quiet on grant opportunities and council left to foot the bill of any additional obligations that arise from being the Crown Land manager?
Councillor, we already manage the site, but I'll throw to the general manager. So I don't think there'd be any additional costs.
I can. It wouldn't change. It's currently devolved lands, which is a form of Crown land that is not formalised. What we've already written to Crown Lands is to ask them about that. So that's already gone in. It wouldn't change our risk profile about the contamination on the site. We already have an issue that we have to mitigate. We've got a process of working with the site currently, pickers and things like that you have to go through regularly to pick up any asbestos or anything else that comes through. So we've got issues that we need to manage now.
The asbestos that was floating past Councillor Figaro, the cricket fields,
So there are issues down the site that we need to improve regardless of whether this process goes through. So we're currently under the process of working with Crown Lands. We're currently in the process of getting the full costings to give us the range. All of those components of the site are all able to be staged or not proceeded with. So that's the wish list is the concept. The wish list then can change depending on funding and other findings that we have, such as we've looked at trees. A lot of them are regrowth. A lot of them are planted within berms there that control the water and so on. So there's a lot of movement in this. It's like that toothpaste again that we're going to squeeze to see where it happens. But there's a lot that can come off it to change the budget and the complexity of the project.
And Councillor, I might add that if we're unsuccessful with grant funding, this is not project that council's going to be able to fund. There's no golden pot of money, so we really would be reliant on external grant funding for this. Councillors, Councillor Williams.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Following that comment. So is your expectation that council would put no funds into this in terms of the quantum we're talking about is quite large? Are you saying that we'd only go forward if?
I'm only a single councillor, Councillor
No,
Williams.
you-
I don't think this commits us to funding. I think that would be a decision once you have the full costings and you have scope and you have grant funding. If there's a requirement for some contribution, I think much like at Bronia Park, we'd have to make that call at the time. But I think that's going to be, given the time frame here, that might even be a decision for a future council. Councillor Prieston, you
Hello.
speaking?
Just to, yes, I will speak, but I just had a question quickly through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director. You're laughing at me.
Oh, no, it wasn't us saying sincerity.
I've lost my train of thought now. The bike path that exists at Buffalo Creek is not affected by these plans, presumably.
This is a high level concept. And that the intent would be to keep a bike track there. It's the purpose of the report is just to get a concept that people could start to look at, comment on, something quite tangible, but it's not really developed. All the report is seeking is that it can be a concept so that we can go and seek some funding to do further investigations, to develop a feasibility and project plan and business plan that would then support AFL to go and seek funding, for us to seek funding. If there's working out how it could be staged, we could do bike tracks or playgrounds separately to the AFL field. It's a component of parts, and we would look to build that out over time.
It's a very important bike track. I think every child in Hunters Hill learned to ride on that bike track, myself included.
Mr. Mayor, we should put the traffic signs back.
I agree with you, Councillor Williams. I just need to find some money to do it. Councillor Prieston.
140,000.
Councillor Prieston.
And have you had conversations, I think you have, but just to confirm, with Crown Lands about this concept?
We've reached out to them to start to set up some meetings with them, but we have not presented this to anybody because we wanted to bring it to council first to make sure that we were being transparent in what we were doing. But having a concept like this to be able to take to Crown Lands is a really good first step to be able to start that conversation.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I'll speak in favour of the motion in the business paper.
Councillor.
Just super briefly, I think it's good work, good collaboration between council and external relevant parties. I think I've heard a lot about the need for the community of this sort of facility. I think I'd be reticent to spend, millions of dollars on this. I mean, we've just had a motion before us around restoring the Priory and how we don't have enough funds to bring that facility up to scratch. So I think it would be a balancing act for council to consider, cost of funding and where we prioritise different projects at different points in time. However, I do think this is a really awesome project, should it be viable. And I would hope that AFL New South Wales could come to the party with the bulk of this funding, considering that we'd be, or the bulk of the funding to plug the gap from the state government or any other, grant-funded party, given that we would be considering adapting the site for the sole purpose or predominant purpose of AFL. I think it would be incumbent on AFL New South Wales to come to the party in that regard. Otherwise, I'm in full support of the concept plan and the motion in the business paper.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers? Sorry, Councillor Williams, another question?
Yes, a question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the General Manager. We've heard tonight several comments that there is work being done by staff at the moment in relation to this project. I'm just wondering if the General Manager could provide some idea or scope as to how much we're going to spend on this process in the next 12 months in terms of staff time and other associated costs?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I couldn't determine that until I know whether we get any funding for the additional studies. So there's not much more work we can do unless we actually get some funding to do the additional work.
So, Mr Mayor, through you to the General Manager, so what we're being advised is that there's no work going to be done until we get some additional funding.
Sally might want to add to that.
Yes.
There's $140,000 in the budget for this that was exhibited as part of the operational plan. So we would undertake to use some of that money to start some of these investigations should the concept plan be endorsed for
That's
Councillor Vergara. Sorry, councillors. Councillor Vergara has the call. Councillor Lane. Councillor Vergara has the call.
I move that the motion be put.
If there's a move that the motion be put, is that seconded? Seconded. Councillor Kassab. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, I'll do that again. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Councillor Lane, I'm not inviting you to speak. Please refrain from making comments when you don't have the call. It's really quite rude.
I'd like you not to ignore my hand.
Sorry, councillor. Not inviting you to speak at the moment. We put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. We now move to item. Thank you for coming tonight. We now move to item 8.3, artificial. Can I just test, councillors? Is there any items that you have a burning passion to speak to?
have to vote on the grants.
Yes, correct. Councillor Preston.
8.9, please.
8.9. 8.3. 8.3.
8.5.
8.5. Anything else, councillors?
8.4 that we're already going to.
Yeah. And 8.8. So, councillors, can I just I'll move after 8.6, so because the others are all in order. Item 8.3, artificial intelligence use policy for adoption, moved. Councillor Lane, seconded. Councillor Kassab, any discussion? Councillor Lane.
I'm moving it with an amendment, which I've provided. So when we put it up for exhibition, I flagged that there wasn't anything in the policy around transparency, and North Sydney Council is also moving an AI policy simultaneously, and they do have a clause on transparency. So I have suggested we add it, and the words of it are in the motion. And while we're waiting, I can read that out.
You're adding a 0.3.
No, it's just subject to
the following.
Yeah, and so this paragraph is a verbatim copy of 4.1.4 of the North Sydney motion, but it says Council will ensure transparency in the use of AI by disclosing its involvement when AI tools contribute to public-facing content, influence service delivery, or assist in decision-making that affects individuals or community outcomes. Disclosure is required when AI is used to generate reports, correspondence, recommendations, or other outputs that inform or represent Council actions. However, disclosure is not required when AI is used solely to improve grammar, clarity, formatting of existing text without introducing new analysis, research, or substantive content. Staff must maintain clear records of AI use and ensure that AI-assisted decisions can be explained in plain language with appropriate human oversight and review.
General Manager, could I just get your view of that amendment, whether that's something that's acceptable to the staff?
I'm struggling with maintaining clear records. I don't know. I mean, we do that much, and yeah, if you're using AI to assist, this recording of and putting it into records becomes quite difficult. I would have thought. I don't know. Jade, do you have any comments in relation to it, Jade?
I think through Smith, the transparency concept in itself is okay, but the policy clearly states that AI will not be used to automate decision making. So I'm just not sure if it's sort of a bit too detailed in that sense. And I do agree with the general manager that the record keeping component would become quite an administrative burden. Monitoring and the usage processes are monitored and documented by IT. I don't think it should be put onto the end user.
Was in any of the two submissions that we received, was this raised?
It was raised by me to the general manager.
No, sorry, I'm not asking whether or not, I'm just asking whether it was raised in the correspondence, the two submissions that we received. No, it was, okay. Sorry, councillor.
Sorry, I was going to say,
Ms.
I'm
Sleeman.
comfortable with that addition, except the key records, I think that's going to be the challenge. Personally, I've put something in similar, councillor Lane too.
Sorry, councillor, can I, you're erring on debate here, so I might just wait till we get into debate. Yeah. So councillor Lane's moved the motion. Councillor Kassab, are you comfortable seconding the motion with the amendment?
The only thing that I will say that I'm concerned about is the clear records. I just don't know.
Councillor Williams.
I can solve that. I'm happy to second the motion.
Councillor Kassab, do you wish to not to second the motion?
Sure.
Councillor Williams seconds the motion. There's a motion on the floor. Councillor Lane, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Sure. Yeah, look, it's like I said, this is taken verbatim from North Sydney, and what they've done is they've reflected my concern when I originally raised that to the general manager for consideration in the paper, which is that as decision makers, we need to understand when substantive content is going into decisions. That's different from replacing decision making, and there are other councils like City of Sydney that have gone much further. The record keeping, I think we can work on if we don't like North Sydney's wording, but there is a significant risk to our work as councillors in reviewing work if it hasn't been produced by humans. And just understanding when something is AI generated is important. This is already happening, as we probably know, in the world at large. So, you know, metadata is being put into images that are AI generated so people can trace it. So again, I don't think I'm proposing anything particularly unusual. I think that there needs to be something in there. I'm amenable to amending that sentence that Councillor Kassab raised, though, because I think fundamentally the issue is, can we as decision makers identify when AI has been used? And I think that the policy at the moment doesn't cover our understanding of what's been given to us.
Councillor,
Sorry, can we just raise up the screen? My apologies, please. Thank you so much.
Councillor Kassab.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to General Manager or whoever is appropriate. Rather than you having the line of staff must maintain clear records of AI use, etc., is there a more appropriate way for us to address that same concern, given what you've just said about it being tracked by IT, etc.? Is there another way that we can address that same concern?
General Manager.
I'm just rereading it all. Just give me a moment. I think it's actually disclosures required when our uses used. That can be done. We put a comment in the report. Not sure about correspondence. I mean, correspondence is just responding to someone and actually dealing with the facts of the letter that you're sending back. You might just be using AI to, generate. You're still going to check it and send it out. I'm not sure you put a line in it that this letter's been, partly done with AI. But
Free Chair. On page 68, we've got a comment in there when all use of AI be appropriately disclosed where AI has materially contributed to a recommendation, decision making, or analysis or image generation. So we do have enough policy to say if we were to use AI to that extent, that we would report and note that. If it was a report coming to council, if it was used in a website or an image taken, we would note that. So that's where I feel that it's we've got that covered within that policy within that point. Already noted that if we were to use it to this context, that we would comment on that.
Councillors, any speakers against the motion? For the motion?
I have a question.
Question, Councillor Williams.
I think I raised it previously when we talked about this matter, but I noticed in page 64, the environmental impact assessment. As I've mentioned before, I think we have a social responsibility to be sustainable, and AI is a major consumer of a whole range of things. And more importantly, the more you use it, the more impact you have. So using it sparingly would be important. So the question is, why haven't we considered sustainability issues in the environmental assessment?
Manager.
So, Councillor, I assume you're saying because of data centres that the use of AI is creating more use of data centres, and therefore the issues, environmental issues that have been raised around those. I'm not quite certain where you're heading to with this.
Well, there's the obvious ones of water and electricity being
Right.
significant impacts, but as they found in England, the Prime Minister had to give out a request to people in England to delete any unnecessary photos and emails because they were running out of water to drive the data centres. So there is a lot of redundancy in what people do, and I'm sure council is guilty of it as well, that we use it and we forget about it rather than deleting and tidying things up. And that makes an enormous difference in the demand at a data centre. And we have a responsibility as an organisation to minimise that impact on the environment and on the demand within those centres.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
That was my speech.
Yes, I took that as you speaking for it. Councillors, any further questions? Any speakers against the motion?
I'm sorry.
For the motion?
I'm happy to move an amendment, which I understand multiple councillors
It's
have requested.
your motion. You can amend
Yes,
it.
so I'm happy to remove the last sentence of B, which I think just avoids
From staff must maintain.
yeah, staff must
Yeah.
maintain clear records.
Sorry,
I think
Councillor
it
Williams, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
that was all.
Yes, thank you. Councillors, any further discussion? Right of reply?
I appreciate the comments that the director made, but I think that it would help to specifically call this out and just make sure that the transparency of AI is clearly captured. So I commend it to the floor.
Councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. Now move to item 8.4, draft community grants policy and 2026 program timeline. Move Councillor Kassab, seconded Councillor Tanus-Sleeman. Any discussion, councillors? I note that there is a community. There's another councillor that needs to be added to the panel. The mayor and deputy mayor, two councillors. Sorry. So I will deal with the motion, then I'll deal with the council representatives. Councillor Lane, do you wish to speak to the
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Yes.
If the mover is happy with this. I note that the amounts that are in the community grants policy haven't been changed since 2022. And CPI has gone up. So $500 is almost $600 now by CPI. I think a tennis racket has gone from about $350 to $490. So I just like to suggest, even if we keep the overall amount as $20,000, that we increase the individual amounts. And I would suggest, for example, that $1,500 becomes $2,000 for category 1. And for category 2, I would suggest $200 to $750.
Councillor, I think we can probably do that through. Can we do that without it being formally moved, can we do that as a matter of course, or do we have to adopt it when we got the budget? We've already set the budget out as.
I think in the
It
future,
would be better if we're going out to people to say that they can apply for grants to have some values on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, councillor, we're going to have to move those as amendments or have them adopted. So what's the specific word?
so the specific wording would be,
Oh, you've actually sent it. Okay, councillor.
so that 2,000 is currently 1,500. The other thing is, at the moment we have specific bands, 500, 1,000 and 1,500. I'm not sure why we have bands, but I thought we would just say 500 to 2,000 and let the applicants determine that.
Is the mover and second comfortable, mover and seconder comfortable with amending those numbers?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, that's been adopted into the motion now. Councillors, any further discussion on that? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Councillors, apart from the Mayor and Deputy Mayors, any nominations for Councillor Williams, Councillor Kassab? There only being two.
Need to get to?
Only get two.
Great.
Congratulations. That was easy. So Councillor Kassab and Councillor Williams were appointed to that appointed to that unopposed. Item 8.5, Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference 2026. Moved Councillor Vergara, seconded Councillor Williams. Any discussion? Councillor Williams.
I'd like to nominate myself to attend the conference. We're allowed two representatives in addition to the voting delegates, and that would be part of my development.
You've done that prior, haven't you? You've done it before.
I've been to many, yes. I don't think I've missed one.
Yeah.
That just gives the general manager the ability to include them. Yeah.
Councillor Lane, you had a question? Sorry. Councillor?
Yes, just two questions. Last year, I asked for motions to be circulated, and I don't think there were any. Can I just ask again that if we receive any motions, they be circulated?
The whole pack?
Well, the ones that we'll be voting on, yeah.
We vote on all motions.
Sure.
I think they're then local government circulate them to all councillors anyway. I believe.
Last year.
Yes.
And then the second one was, are we proposing any motions from Hunters Hill?
Not unless they're brought by councillors. Councillor Kassab.
What Councillor Williams has said about the two extra,
They're not voting delegates, they're just delegates.
I understand that.
Mhm.
Where does it say that?
It's not in the motion, but Councillor
on
Williams
page-
has
Page
opted in the.
85 at the top, clause 3, the maximum number of delegates and representatives attending the authorised conference, seminar and function shall be.
Got it. Gotcha. Thank you. Sorry, I just didn't see that.
That's all right.
Yeah, two reps.
Yeah.
And two voting delegates. And Councillor Williams generally takes the allocation of his allowance to come to LGNSW. In the gong, Councillor Williams.
Can I speak?
Mate.
I'm speaking for the motion, but I'm also speaking from my experience last year, where we had several voting delegates plus a general manager attending, and I don't think they were able to attend. I know you said, and you were there for a short period of time, but I think if we've got delegates, if they can't attend, if the general manager can't attend, then we make available for other people to fill those roles. Because I don't think it's acceptable for the community to be paying for registrations that are not used, and the lost opportunity for council to have a say in the motions being put on the table. So I just raise that as something councillors need to think about. If you put your name down here, then you're definitely going to attend.
I'll be there.
Money involved.
As I was at the last one, Councillor.
Well, a little period.
Well, as I said last time, I'm not sure you'd know because you were outside spruiking votes because you were running, but I was in the conference centre voting on motions. Councillors, Councillor Tanu Sleeman, have you got a question?
I'm fine, thank
No, councillors, any other questions? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that is carried unanimously. Councillors, can I ask for a motion to move item 8.6, 8.7, 8.10, 8.11, 8.12 and 9.1 in block? Move councillor Tanus Sleeman, seconded councillor Kassab. All those in favour? It was 8.6, 8.7, 8.10, 8.11, 8.12 and 9.1.
Yes, but can we still talk?
You may. I'll put the, move councillor Tanus Sleeman, seconded councillor Kassab. All those in favour? Against, that is carried unanimously. We are now in debate on those motions. Moved in block, councillor Tanus Sleeman, councillor Vergara, seconded. Councillor Tanus Sleeman. Councillor Vergara.
Yeah, I had a question on 8.10 investment report. The unrestricted cash decreased from about 550 to 271, which seems to me to be a small buffer. So just through you, Mr. Mayor, Director, if there are any concerns with the adequacy of the unrestricted cash reserves.
Director of Corporate Services. Director. Through you, Chair, we normally expect, especially in May and June, with the finalisation of the capital works program, that the unrestricted cash would reduce to that level. We've levied our rates for the month of July, so then that would replenish itself for the full year, and as well as in August when those first instalments are due, where sometimes they pay them full rather than instalment.
Perfect, thank you. Another question on the items we moved in blocks.
Yes.
It might be a comment. This is item 9.1, so the correspondence received.
Yes.
I think it's important to put on the record and note that the Department of Education has provided comments on the Gladesville Master Plan and the planning proposal. Specifically, it has indicated that it has analysed the anticipated students associated with the proposal. It confirms that the long-term projected growth can be met at the existing schools. So that addresses one of the issues raised by the residents about the part of the infrastructure availability. And then in terms of the solar access, which seemed to be a big issue for many residents, I'm sure they'd be pleased to know that the Department of Education is satisfied with the outcomes achieved under the Council's preferred strategy, and that will ensure development remains consistent with the Education Department of at least 70% of school spaces, including outdoor school play spaces receiving direct sunlight between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. midwinter. So the department is satisfied with the building heights, the distribution of massing and the development controls posed by the proposal. So that is good news for residents who raised those two things as concerns. I mean, I know it's not all the good news story, but at least that's some part of it.
Thank you, councillor. Any further discussion on the block items? Councillor Lane.
I had a question on 8.7, local transport forum. On page 124, it had a time frame for the Baronia Park LATM as commencing at the start of this year, and I just wanted an update on their dates for that.
Yes, sorry, Director.
So the LATM, the detailed design is nearly with us, so that's being reviewed by Transport for New South Wales. We're developing all the documentation for procurement for construction, and we're hoping that would be start commencing October, but we're just awaiting that finalisation with Transport for New South Wales.
And sorry, I had a second question. So in item 8.11 DAs, actually it was two questions. One was on page 159, 3 Dick Street says that it's demolition of an existing 3-storey dwelling and a new 3-storey dwelling. It looks like it's only 1 story to the front, so it's perhaps a sloping site, but I just wanted to confirm whether or not it was an existing 3-storey dwelling. It might be on notice. Yeah. Great, thank you. And then the second one was on page 160. So it's DA 2026-0052. The tree that's being removed was a river birch, which is a substantial tree. And the 3 trees that were proposed to replace it, again, are not from the urban canopy tree list. So could I just repeat my previous comments that we adopt the urban canopy tree list in our own strategy for recommended replacements of significant trees, or sorry, major trees, I mean.
Yes, of course, I'll double check that.
Thank you. Do we, sorry, the urban tree strategy, as I remember it, maybe it's worth revisiting, was for our canopy on our land, on council lands and reserves. Did we adopt that into the private land, into DAs for private property?
I would have to check. I think the intent was for the urban forest strategy was for the LGA and that it would be on public lands and anything owned by council, but I think the general intent would be that is replicated private land where replacement trees are. So
Yeah.
I would just need to double check the nuance on.
I wouldn't want to get hugely prescriptive, and apart from height, substantive trees, replacing substantive trees, but I wouldn't want to get hugely specific species.
I'm happy to bring that clarification.
Yeah, okay. Councillors, that is Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr Mayor, question relating to 8.7.
8.7. Yes, minutes of transport forum.
Yeah, I appreciate there's been significant changes in relation to how we deal with traffic matters, with the development of the local traffic forums. But in the past, the way that we dealt with these matters, when it went to the traffic committee, it then came back to council for approval. But it appears that there's only a series of recommendations that are provided within the various minutes that have been tabled. I was wondering if the General Manager could tell me what is the process then for activating those recommendations, because they don't appear to come back to council for a decision on whether it wants to go down.
Director, yes, that'd be the new regs.
Yes, that's right. So Transport for New South Wales have changed the delegation such that it's not a traffic committee anymore, it's a traffic forum. And so we take any traffic items to the forum, which is made up by similar sort of committee members or forum members, Transport for New South Wales, New South Wales Police, a representative of the local member, and council staff and the councillor as chair. We have delegation to make the decisions, but we take some of these issues to them for advice. And so the General Manager or their delegate can make the decisions for the implementation. It doesn't need to come back through council. When I did the review, I looked at all the different reports and realised that they hadn't been brought to council for noting or for information. So that's why I brought them all together as a package tonight.
Councillors, any further discussion on the block items? If not, I'll put the motions. All in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. We now move to item 8.8, minutes of the Arts Advisory Committee meeting held 13 July 2026. Moved Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Januse Sleeman. Councillor Williams.
Just briefly, I think this is a great opportunity to strengthen the committee. With three new artists that are very active, were very active in our recent exhibition. I also note that the committee was very excited about the result of the art exhibition this year and the contribution made by staff and the committee in making it what I believe and understand to be a great success, both financially as well as on a cultural level for our community. The discussion by the committee in that meeting was with the three new people that we would be able to look at what other opportunities are available within our community to support arts. There's several artist groups around the place. There was Plein Air last year, which was highly successful. So there's a range of initiatives that I think the committee will have an opportunity to consider and bring forward to council, any of those that it thinks they're worth pursuing.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any further discussion? Not. The motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried unanimously. In the absence of Councillor Lane, I move to item 8.9, half yearly events update 2026. Moved Councillor Prieston, seconded Councillor Casaba. No, we haven't. No, our speakers withdrawn. Councillor Prieston, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Just super quickly, we had a cultural and events advisory committee meeting planned for last fortnight, but we had to sadly postpone it because we couldn't get quorum due to some illness in the group. So that's why this report has come to council tonight in its current form rather than as a set of minutes from the last Cultural and Events Advisory Committee meeting. But I just wanted to quickly shout out to the council staff. You'll note in the report that the events are split into council-led events, the flagship events, which council obviously funds and operates, but there are also a number of community-led events in our municipality, such as the French markets down at the Woolwich Docks, which have been well subscribed, the Giant Steps Market, the Hunters Hill Music Society concerts and other events. And I just wanted to thank the council staff for dedicating their time outside of business hours. I'll always see Jeff and Annie, for example, down at the French markets on a Sunday and giving up basically your whole day of a weekend is
Eating croissants.
I know it's sort of like you take the good with the bad, but it's much appreciated, and I think it's really important and nice for the community to see that council staff are engaged in the community and are really there because they love Hunters Hill. So thank you for that. And I also just wanted to say that there are some really fun things coming up. Obviously on the agenda, you'll see there's a whole list contained in the business paper, including Mookabulla, which is obviously really exciting and much anticipated event of the Hunters Hill Council calendar. This year it will be held on the 27th of September. So moving it more and more into spring each year, which I think is good from a weather perspective. And also where we trialled hosting Mookabulla on Father's Day last year, and I think that was received good but also bad feedback from the community. So we've listened, and I think we are doing it on a separate day so that people can do their Father's Day things if that's applicable to them on the weekend prior, and then do Mookabulla separately. So hopefully we can all spruik that event in our own channels, and there'll be a good sponsorship pack published on the council website for distribution if anyone has any contacts, particularly local businesses that might be able to sponsor different parts of the Mookabulla event. It really goes a long way because council's funds are obviously limited. So that's all I wanted to say, but really exciting things coming up.
Thank you, Councillor Preston. Councillor Tinsley.
I just wanted to talk to that. I've raised it with Councillor Preston about the Mookabulla. One, I am looking forward to it. I'm speaking to a lot of residents in our area. It's interesting the lack of knowledge on where Mookabulla comes from, its origins. And so we have this wonderful event that brings the whole social community together, which I think is great. But there is actually no connection to where the name sort of originated from. So I'll be putting forward a recommendation for the next cultural committee meeting about bringing in and raising involvement with the Indigenous community to come and have a ceremony as part of our Mookabulla event, which I don't think has been done before.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do a smoking ceremony,
Yeah.
but we don't.
Not a smoking
we probably
ceremony.
don't do a cultural.
It's a cultural
engagement piece. Yeah.
more than a smoking ceremony. Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An observation from last year. Cost of living is a big issue in our community, and last year I had even the local member come up to me and mention the price of the rides, and I didn't see it being as well utilised as it was. I was just wondering whether there's any way for council to look at, and I know they've got to make a profit out of what they're doing, but I think it's becoming a level which is young kids and young families a bit difficult to meet that bar. And we all know taking kids to something like this, the pressure is on to allow them to participate in the sort of, just raising that as an observation and what people came to me with last year. I don't know how we fix the problem. Sponsorship, yeah, but that's an issue which we need to be aware of.
Yep. Councillor Preston. Any other councillors wish to speak? If not, rather reply, councillor Preston.
Thanks. Just quickly on that, that's why it is really important. And Gabby and Cherry have done a lot of work on our sponsorship pack. It's in really good form and format. I think it's really easily distributable by all councillors and all council staff to their various channels. So I don't think that councillors to date have participated in that that sort of fundraising activity for Mookaboola, but it is I would say our flagship event outside of New Year's Eve down at Clark's Point. So we're all very well connected. We're all entrenched in the community for a really long period of time. So again, I would really implore the councillors and council staff where possible to distribute that sponsorship pack. I myself reached out to just some of the real estate agencies locally last year and was able to secure some funds from Bressick Whitney, which went to sponsor, I can't remember now specifically, but the stage or something or other. So every little bit goes a long way, and it helps to keep the costs down and keep the experience still, you know, enticing for the community. So there are things that we can do. There's also ways that we could reach out to the community to seek volunteers and other things. So where we can minimise council's outlay of costs on the event as much as possible, then we do find ourselves being able to afford the residents and the community a little bit more of an affordability piece around Mookaboola. So just food for thought, but it would be really appreciated if people could chip in that way, and the sponsorship pack will be on the website. Sherry's not here, but
Perhaps, councillor, if you could circulate that to council.
yeah, I definitely will. Just for ease of reference and distribution. But yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Williams. So I think that's been a really front of mind thing for me as I engage with the committee on this.
Yes, thank you. So that concludes debate. Sorry, councillor Williams. Yes, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Councillor Williams, you have a question?
Yeah, just following on from that, in terms of councillors seeking sponsorship for a council event, I think we just need to be a little bit of conflict, because that's been a dilemma over many years. Councillors are going to businesses, to groups asking for sponsorship, and that may be perceived in some way that you're providing an opportunity later on, that the old story that they give. Yeah. So it's just something that councillors need to be aware of.
I think that the general manager's office is handling all sponsorship at the moment, so it's probably.
You send them out, make sure they will come back via us.
Yeah, I wouldn't be filling any forms for.
I had council staff listed on all of that.
Yeah. Councillors, there are no questions with notice, so I'd ask you to move into closed session. You have to vote to move in closed session. Move Councillor Kassab, second to Councillor Tony Sleeman. All those in favour?
I'd like to speak against that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you may.
Is somebody going to speak for it?
Councillor, would you like to speak for going into closed session? No. Councillor, you have the call. And I might remind Councillor Williams not to divulge the content of the confidential session, as has he has skirted the line of a couple of times in previous motions.
I don't intend to detail what's in the report, but I do raise the very important issue of how we operate under the requirements of the Code of Meeting Practice, particularly 14, Section 14 in that code. And we've got to be very careful. We're being transparent about what we do. I agree, we need to be careful that we don't expose commercial or private information. Reading this report, I'd say 70% of it falls in the category that it is reasonable for the community to be given access to it. There's a table which I think could be in a confidential mode, but the things like context, background, rationale, process, all those things in the report, I think, are of community interest and the community could make that available. So the reason I'm speaking against going into confidential session is not because there aren't components there that probably need to be confidential, but the broad basis of the report is of interest to the community and falls outside the category of being in the code of meeting practice that would require us to deal with it in confidential session. So I think council needs to consider transparency in what it does. And it needs to be a little bit more compartmentalising the issues that it brings forward as a confidential session. I think there's a real opportunity for us to keep the community informed about the decision-making process. And I agree, yes, some details can't be shared, but people would look at the outcome of this and say, well, what was the process? What was the context? What was the background? All those things, I think, are very relevant for the community to understand the decisions that council makes. So I speak against going into confidential session for that reason.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried with the dissent of Councillor Williams. I'll ask the video to be shut off and the doors